So, a year ago I nearly ruined my CRF250 Rally in the most stupid way possible. And if it wasn't for the kindness of friends and colleagues, chances are I would still be trying to get the bike fixed, or worse, riding it in a rather dangerous state of repair. So what exactly did I do? Well, something that it turns out is actually not that hard at all to do. I over-tightened the oil drain plug. If there's one thing I can't overstate to the beginner DIYer out there, it is you must never, ever over-tighten your oil drain plug on your bike. It is a nightmare. So, what started out as a routine oil change on my CRF250L Rally soon turned into a potentially incredibly expensive repair, and it was all caused by a moment's inattention and a torque wrench I was not familiar with. But before we get into what happened, let's rewind a bit. So, with the shocker of a year that 2020 was, the CRF spent much of the year in storage unused. So, without being able to perform an oil change before the bike sat idle for 6 months, performing an oil change and some basic maintenance was high on my priority list once I had the bike back in the garage. Having purchased all the necessary parts, I was really looking forward to getting my hands dirty, and I even purchased a brand new 1/4" torque wrench to ensure everything was tightened up to the spec dictated by the owner's manual. Spoiler alert, this is where things went wrong. So after draining the filthy oil, I then proceeded to do up the oil drain bolt to the specified 24 Newton meters, which interestingly is 8 Newton meters tighter than on the CBR250, which is the exact same engine for all intents and purposes. Whether through distraction, inattention, or the simple unfamiliarity with that new torque wrench, I went well past that specified torque rating and stripped the thread. The result was the oil drain bolt wouldn't fully seal or tighten beyond a certain point, and oil would slowly seep out from the drain hole and drip onto the ground. So this is where things got tricky. I called up the local Honda dealer and they didn't want to touch it. So they put me in touch with the dealership I bought the bike from initially over in the city, and they also were not keen to re-tap the hole and fit a helicoil style fix. According to them, it has potential problems, and they quite understandably didn't want to be liable if the repair failed. And that second dealership, well, they did have a fix, but it was not exactly cost effective. What they wanted to do, instead of fixing the damaged thread, they wanted to completely replace the damaged engine case. The cost there would have been around $2,400 in New Zealand, while due to the COVID-19 pandemic, getting the parts in from Thailand would have been a couple of months. Not ideal when I just spent 6 months not riding the bike and I desperately wanted to go riding. So having neither the time nor that sort of money just lying around, I needed another option, which thankfully was arranged by the publisher of Kiwi Rider magazine, who I work closely with and all around is a good top bloke. With over 30 years in the industry, if someone knew how to help me out and get me back on the road, it was Mr. McPhee. Well, within a week of me calling him up basically in tears going, what the hell do I do? He had collected the Rally from the dealer and transported it all the way up to Auckland to Bruin Engineering, a firm which is run by an MXGP, well, a former MXGP and MotoGP engineer called Jimmy Bruin. Renowned as one of the cleverest guys ever to spin a spanner on a motorcycle. If anyone could fix the bike, it was him. At this point in the tale, 3 weeks back and forth conversations with dealers and insurance company personnel had passed, and, well, to my amazement, within 4 hours of the bike being in the hands of Bruin Engineering, the Rally was fixed, holding oil like a champion, and it was ready to come back to me in Cambridge. From what I can tell, and I am no engineer, and as you can probably guess, I am not a great DIYer, though I try my best, the stripped thread was drilled out and a new bolt was inserted into that engine case to act as a new fitting. That bolt was pre-drilled and tapped for another smaller bolt to be screwed in and act as the new oil drain hole. Ensuring the new bolt won't go anywhere, it's also been drilled and is secured with lock wire, which is tied down to the engine case. Okay, so sure, the resale value of the bike will definitely be impacted, not that I really plan on selling it at this point, but the potential real-world issue is that the new drain fitting now sits lower than the factory intended. If I succeed in my very long-term plan of setting up the Rally for serious adventure riding, I'll have to ensure that I fit a sturdy bash plate to prevent it from getting hung up on anything, because then I'll be back to square one. But In saying that, a full year later, and many adventures that otherwise wouldn't have happened if not for my mates, the repair is holding well, and I even managed to change the oil again without messing it up this time. Other than that, it's been one hell of a learning experience. Sure, you can follow the rule book, or in my case the owner's manual, but it might not always pay off. Perhaps the biggest takeaway is this: never torque your oil drain plug. It's simple, you just hand tighten it and give it a quick nip with a wrench, and that will suffice for any engine. So that's it for this. If you want to keep up with the latest motorcycle news, reviews and a bit more, check out my website onthrottle.co.nz. If you've enjoyed my tale of woe, hit like, hit subscribe. It would make a big difference to the channel, and thanks again for watching.